Welcome to Charter Local Edition. I'm Tracy Young. Over 5 million Americans suffer from Alzheimer's disease, and that number is anticipated to rise due to an aging population. But joining us to talk about his research on this topic is the director of the Institute for Memory Impairments and Neurological Disorders at UCI, Dr. Frank LaFerla. Nice to have you with us, Doctor.
Thank you very much.
Will you kind of explain to us in layman's terms, for those of us who are not medical professionals, what is this disease? I was reading about these neutrons not firing correctly and dying.
So the easiest way to explain this is that you know how much damage in your life gets wreaked when your computer hard drive crashes. Imagine what happens to you when your body's hard drive, which is your brain, crashes. And so
every other function in your body ceases,
well,
like it is on your computer, kind of?
No, because it selectively affects your memory during the initial stages of the disease. And so you end up being in a situation where you are in an environment where people know a lot about you, but you don't know a lot about them. And that becomes very scary for these patients.
So speak to me about how many people are expected to be affected by this disease.
Yeah, so right now, over 10% of the nation's Alzheimer's patients live in the state of California. So in the state of California, we're disproportionately affected. Right now, there are about 5.3 million Americans, and we anticipate that that number is going to grow by about threefold by the middle of the century, in part because aging is the most significant risk factor for Alzheimer's disease, and we're living longer. And as a result, we're going to see a tsunami of Alzheimer's cases coming our way over the next 20 to 30 years.
The one that we talk about a lot is Alzheimer's disease, but I understand that really part of that, there are so many other related memory loss disorders.
Right.
We just tend to say Alzheimer's all the time.
Right. So Alzheimer's is one of many types of dementia. So dementia is kind of an umbrella term in much the same way that cancer is an umbrella term. So if you tell someone you have cancer, it's not clear if you have skin cancer or breast cancer. Same thing with the dementias. Now, of all the dementias, Alzheimer's is the most common. It accounts for about 65 to 70% of all cases of dementia. So that's why we always tend to use those terms interchangeably.
So what are you learning? Because we keep hearing that as we're having an aging population, that somewhere in the neighborhood of half of all people 85 and older could be suffering from one of these diseases. We're talking about, obviously it's not a very fun way to go in your life, but it's extraordinarily expensive. Are we making any progress?
We are. It's a slow, tedious process because research is a slow, tedious process. But we are learning, and probably the biggest inroads that we will see is in the prevention of the disease. And so we're realizing that diet plays an important role. So people who eat diets that are enriched in omega-3, so salmon as part of your regular diet, eating a lot of fruits and vegetables, what we would traditionally associate as the Mediterranean diet seems to have a pretty profound effect at slowing the onset of the disease anyway.
Are there any foods that we should avoid, since you gave us some foods to eat?
I would avoid foods that are rich in trans fatty acids.
Which we say is bad for our heart. Now we're thinking it's also bad for our brain.
And that's the bottom line. It seems that what's ever good for your heart is also good for your brain. It seems that those two go pretty close in hand.
Are we close to getting to a point where we really think we could almost, I don't know, there's no such thing as 100%, I guess, but prevent it and almost cease it if we start to get it? Are we close?
Unfortunately, I don't think we're that close yet. I think we still have a lot of work to do and a lot of research. There's right now no effective treatments. The only options that we have right now are symptomatic drugs that marginally slow down the disease for a very short period of time. So we desperately need a good therapy.
And I certainly don't want to take funding away, obviously, from, as you were saying, breast cancer, skin cancer, any other kind of cancer, or lung disease, or heart disease, or anything like that. But how are we doing in regards to getting out the awareness so that we have the funds to make some advancements in research?
I think we probably could do a lot better because the government, over the last several years, their funding for the NIH has been very flat. We're actually, the National Institutes of Health, which supports all research, their money over the last several years has grown less than the rate of inflation.
All right, so we need more money for research on memory impairments. Thank you so much for your time, Doctor.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
For Charter Local Edition, I'm Tracy Young.
The fact that I served in Congress, for the politicians I cover, that's actually a double-edged sword. I understand the unique pressures that public officials face. But on the other hand, I may be tougher than other commentators because I know when they're lying.
MSNBC, the place for politics.